up a dive. Feel the vibe, get ready to ignite. Untold stories in the airways, flying through the night. Experience voices, tales so bold. Streaming live, the truth unfolds. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wild and variety. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can't hide. Aliens in the alley, UFOs in the sky. Cryptids lurking, oh my, oh my. Ghosts in the hallway, whispering your name. The paranormal, the unexplained. Become a VIP, get the inside scoop. Unlock the mysteries, be part of the group. Live streaming stories, they're talking to you. Super chats buzzing, join the crew. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wild and variety. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can hide. So if you've got the guts and you want to explore, tune into the Untold, it's what you're looking for. From aliens to ghosts and all that's unseen. Untold Radio Network, where the world's mysteries convene.
Welcome, everyone, to the Sasquatch Outpost Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Myers.
And I'm your co-host, Sybilla Irwin. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. And if you were not here last week with us, you're going to be surprised because this tonight is our last episode with the Untold Radio Network. So sorry to shock any of you who weren't with us last week and you didn't hear this news earlier, but we mentioned that this would be our last episode this week, and there's a lot of reasons for that, none of which have to do with any disconnect with the network or any of the leaders on the network. We've got a great relationship with Doug and Alex Hychek and Blaine, and it's more to do with my need to focus on the construction of our escape room, the Deep Woods escape room, and we're going to show you a quick update on that in a minute. And I just need more time than I've got right now, and I typically will invest 10 hours for every podcast that we do in terms of preparation and finding the right guests and making sure we've got everything uploaded and making sure our guests are situated in the right place and lighting and cameras and all that. So which we did this evening, like we always do, just to make sure that our guests were ready to go, and they are. So we're looking forward to that. But Sybilla and I both just really want to express gratitude to the whole network. It's been almost 2 years that I've been with the Untold Radio Network, and it's been a great time. I've really enjoyed being with them. I've grown a lot in my skills in terms of a podcaster, and I have to give them a great deal of credit in that respect. They created the intro that you watched. They've created this backdrop and gave all of us as hosts training. And so I really can't say enough about the network and how much they contributed to making this show a success. And so thank you, Doug, Alex, Blaine, the other staff, for all that you've done to help us. And I will still be publishing my book through them, through Hangar One Publishing, when I can get the book finished. Obviously, I've got a lot of things on my plate right now. So, but we are looking forward at some point in the hopefully not too distant future that Sybilla and I are going to be starting our own podcast through the Sasquatch Outpost YouTube channel. And you want to tell them a little bit about what we're thinking, Sybilla, for that?
Well, we're just going to be spending more time doing in-depth research and showing you about that, showing you, getting to spend more time in detail with the witnesses that we're working with. I'd like to kind of go into some habituation situations and share some of that with the people who are willing to share. Obviously not their location with us, but what living on a habituation is like. I know that our guest tonight knows something about that as well. And I just think that people will be real interested in. It's just stuff you can't do on a live show so much because it's a little bit more about entertainment. And I want to go a little bit more in depth into what researchers actually do and what we, how we record and what we record and what it's like. And anything else that they might be, our guests, like you guys in the chat room, we're kind of counting on you to give us ideas of what you'd like to see as well.
Live research. Yeah. We've talked about doing some live broadcasts depending on how we can do that. But there's a lot of things we want to try. Some storytelling from some of our eyewitnesses who aren't able or willing to tell the story themselves. But we do want to encourage everyone to continue listening and watching the network. Please don't stop just because we are leaving the network. There's still some great shows, and I know that you guys know that, and so you're going to keep watching those shows and supporting their efforts and supporting the network. And we wish them all the best, and that they'll continue to grow, and that the network will just go from strength to strength. That's our hope. So thank you, Untold Radio. Now, the escape room, boy, I'm working flat out on this escape room, and it's me and occasionally a few others who've helped, Wayne or Brian McGrath, or hopefully my future son-in-law's parents are going to come after Christmas. That's my hope, to give me some real long-term help. But Stephanie and I made a quick little intro that we put on the GoFundMe page, which I think we've got about $2,000 raised. So thank you, everyone who's contributed. That's going to help us a great deal to be able to keep going and finish the escape room. But let's just play that little video that we made, Stephanie, and give them a better idea. Welcome to the future home of Deep Woods, the Sasquatch Escape Room Adventure. Behind this wall is going to be mystery and magic and monsters. And we're hoping by summer 2025 to have this finished and to have the opportunity for everyone to come try out the newest and greatest world-class escape room adventure. This is not going to be an educational experience like we've had downstairs. Up here in the escape room is going to be pure entertainment. Fun for the whole family, scary, exciting, and full of adventure. And we hope to have this completely finished by the beginning of summer next year. If you would like to be a part of this project and help defray the costs, the considerable costs I might add, of building an experience like this, we would love for you to go to our GoFundMe page under Deep Woods and find the space with all the descriptions and the updates as we go. And we'll be giving some incentives in the coming weeks that will hopefully further motivate you to be a part of this incredible adventure that we're building. So, yeah, we've got other updates that we're going to post that we've already videoed, but we needed to get that one up first. So we're very excited. This is coming along well, and I think it's going to be everything we're hoping it will be. Before we bring our guests on tonight, who Sybilla is going to introduce for us, I wanted to tell y'all about something that happened this past weekend. So every year in December, we have an event called Cowboy Christmas here in Bailey. And I've been leading that event for the past couple of years. And it involves a Christmas market. It involves all kinds of activities for the kids, decorating cookies and crafts. So we have Santa who comes, and then we have the lighting of our town Christmas tree, and then we have a night lit parade, a Christmas light parade. So that happened last Saturday, but Friday we were setting up all the tents and everything for Saturday, and we had it took us all day to set all this up. We had a 20 by 40 foot tent, 2 10 by 20 foot tents, and a 10 by 10 tent. And we have a lot of wind in Bailey, so we strapped all these tents together and then weighted the legs down. And I just calculated before the show, I think just the tents and the poles weighed about 700 pounds, and we had about 800 pounds of weight on those tents. All right. So we figured we're good. So we finally finished in the afternoon. I left to go down to Denver to go to a Christmas concert with my wife, Daphne. So we had been to the concert. We were driving home about 10 p.m. And I get a phone call from a friend who just happened to drive by the site where all the tents were. And he calls me and he said, he asked me, "Are you up here somewhere?" I said, "No." "Why?" He goes, "Well, I'm sure you set a bunch of stuff up, but your tent has tried to climb over the building next door to the event. And so sometime between 9 and 10 p.m., this happened. So I'm going to have Stephanie, let's do the first video there, Stephanie. When I got there about 11:30, so we had to call the fire department. We had to call the sheriff's department. We had to call the power company because the tents got thrown up onto the power lines.
Oh, no.
And so it was, let's see. Yeah. This is what I arrived to see. That's a 2-story building that the tents are lying on top of. It even threw the weights on top of the building. And so it was just a mangled mess. And then the second video shows the power company with their lift truck, and it was freezing cold, trying to cut all these bars with a Sawzall and get it all off the building. And yeah, it sucked. And so I thought, okay, we're done. I mean, there's no way we can do this event tomorrow. The whole venue for the event is a mangled mess. And we got up at 7 a.m. We were there till 1 in the morning. Got back up at 7 a.m. to go with our sawzalls to cut all of this up, throw it in a big pile. Well, I got to tell you what, being in a little town like Bailey, there's a lot of times when being from a small town annoys me, but there's times when people rally together, and we had people, our brewery that was just across the street from this, let us use their property for the market, for the Christmas market, and people brought tents for us to, and canopies for us to put up. And we had a fantastic Cowboy Christmas event. Thanks to this whole community who just pulled together when they saw the post on social media of what had happened. Everybody came together and it happened, and it was a great event. So, but yeah,
Wow.
one big gust. Everybody knew the big gust because they had all felt it. We had no idea that our tent was thrown up on top of the building, and
Wow.
so yeah.
Is the tent salvageable?
Oh
or
no, it was a mango mess. We had to cut it up to get it off the building, and then to put it in the giant pile, and so it's going to the dump tomorrow to be.
I'm so
thrown away.
sorry.
All 4 tents will be thrown away. So
Oh my gosh.
I guess we're going to make our first insurance claim as a chamber. Chamber of Commerce is who organizes this. I'm on the board of the chamber, and we're gonna find out what that's like.
Wow. Wow.
So
I'm sorry
anyway,
that-
I'm grateful. Yeah, I appreciate that, Sybilla. I'm grateful for our town and for everyone who just joined together and made this whole thing happen. So
Thank goodness.
so Sybilla was the one who suggested our guest tonight, and I was all for it. And I'm going to let her introduce them before we bring them into our discussion. Then we got tons of stuff to show you with these guys. So
Yeah. It's these two guys that you guys are going to meet tonight are like my best friends in the whole universe. They're like you have your ride and die people, like the people you want with you when you're going into anything. These are two of those guys. Like I would go anywhere with these two guys. Not only are they extremely professional, they are just they're just like the best people on the planet. They have the best hearts, and they're also just incredibly fun at the same time. Like anything that you go to do with these two guys, it's going to be like the best time you've ever had. These two guys joined me whenever I was in Crittenden. In fact, you're going to meet Dr. Tom Bruns, and he is the man behind the Crittenden project. And Greg was part of that team. And then when I ended up in the National Forest, these guys were also, Tom made that possible. And those two guys would join me on weekends, and we would all go do 8-mile hikes and steaks by the campfire and all the craziness that went with that. They're great with recording thermal. They're great with all the equipment that you need as a squatcher. They're great with the audio, and Greg's going to share some of that. And like I said, these are the two guys you want with you if you're ever going to go camping. I love these guys.
So we'll play our quick little disclaimer we always do, and then we'll bring them in, and here we go.
Here we go.
So,
hey, Greg, we sound pretty fun, don't we?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I could just imagine you guys sitting there going, "Oh shucks,"
Look, who's that guy she's talking about?
Yeah. No, I'm excited. I told you guys in the email before yesterday, the day before, Sybilla's recommendation is all I need. If she recommends somebody, then that's good enough for me. And she highly recommended you two guys to be on our last episode with the Untold Radio Network. So glad to have you guys.
Yes.
Thanks.
Great to be here. Yeah.
And I understand that you guys have known Sybilla a long time. How do you guys know her? How did that friendship begin?
Well, I met Sybilla for the first time in 2011. We were up at Harrison Hot Springs at the Sasquatch Summit, which was a tribute to John Green.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I was told by one of our other BFRO investigators, Ronnie Powell, you need to look for Sybilla Irwin, because I didn't know who she was. So I walk into this room and I see Cindy, and she's next to the lady with dark hair. So I start talking to Cindy, and then I said, hey, I'm Tom Bruns. And then Sybilla standing right next to her, she goes, Tom, I'm Sybilla. So from that point on, we just chatted, got to know each other, became essentially best friends, and got to meet other people, and started the Sasquatch adventure together.
Yeah. I met her through Tom. I guess our first camping trip was in the Smokies. That's when I met you. I think I was trying to think of the exact moment. It's just there's so many moments. But
Yeah.
then up in Kentucky.
Yeah.
And we just all became really close.
Yeah. So many years, so many good. We have so many exciting experiences. I was trying to think today, what are we going to talk about? Because we have so many cool things.
You have too much to talk about, probably.
Yeah, there's so many crazy things.
Yeah, a lot.
I'd like Tom to tell you and Greg tell us how you got started doing the Sasquatch research anyway.
Yeah.
You want to start, Greg, or?
Yeah, I guess so. I was already into it, doing it by myself for several years, and I just finally decided to go on a BFRO expedition, and I believe it was in North Carolina. I can't remember the name of the area, but that one was where I met Tom. And well, no, it was not. Excuse me. I went on Matt Pruitt's expedition, and it was in the Nantahala National Forest somewhere. And that's where I got kind of hooked on the BFRO, and he made me an investigator, and I went back home, and I think there was another one a few months later, or later in the fall, or was it the spring? I can't remember, but it was in North Carolina, and that's where I met Tom, and we just hit it off. It rained the whole entire time. It was just like a flood. I think everybody went home except us. And we just sat under his canopy of his camper, and I was new, and he had been in BFRO for a while, so he just kind of explained everything to me, and we just talked Squatch, and it just is like instant brothers, I mean, we even like the same drinks and food, and he's like pulling out Doritos. I'm like, hey man, that's my favorite, and it was just...
I go to his campsite, and he has Doritos and Diet Mountain Dew, and I'm like, well, did I bring those over? So it's kind of funny how
you're my brother from another mother.
Exactly.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
But when you have a rained out camp out like that, it's terrible for squatching, but it's interesting how you get to know people so much better because you're just sitting around talking all day long because there's nothing else to do.
Yeah. And that's when I realized that Greg was an owl whisperer. We were sitting there and it was so dark. I didn't see him walk away. And all of a sudden I hear this little owl call. And I'm like, Greg, do you hear that? And he's not there. He's doing the owl call. And he'll actually call. That's a whole nother story. We go on and on about all the times that he will do owl calls, and the owls will come in and land at our campsite and above our heads. It can be scary at times when, those barred owls are like flying right above your head. They go right in front of you.
Yeah, they can be terrifying, their sound.
And what got you started, Tom?
Well, when I was a kid, I read all of the Bigfoot books, and I thought, man, they'd be so much fun. So I was a biology major, and I thought, man, I'll spend part of my time, doing that when I grow up. And then I went into medicine. And then in 2009 or 2008, actually, I read Jeff Meldrum's book, Sasquatch Evidence Meets Science. And that got me really interested again in the Bigfoot world. And in there, he talked about the BFRO. So I thought, oh, that'd be kind of cool. So I looked on the website, and this was in the fall of 2008, I believe. And then they had their very first expedition for Tennessee in 2009 in the spring. So I talked to the individuals in charge, and I went on that expedition, saw my first Sasquatch on thermal. And from that point on, is like, let's buy the thermals. Let's do this right. I like to see in the dark. So, that led to where we are now.
That's so awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
Now, thermals have come a long way since you started.
Oh, yeah. And the first thermal that we used to use in the BFR was the X200 XP, which back then was phenomenal. And that's the one I saw my first Sasquatch on. And I thought, you know what? The only way to do this right, because people would hear noises in the woods. And they're like, that's a squatch, or what's that noise? And you look with a thermal and you see that it's a possum or it's a raccoon, and it's not a squatch. So you're less fearful actually in the woods when you can see in the dark.
Right.
And so
Tom taught me so much about thermals. I mean, that was like a whole nother world. And that was really the first thermal I ever used with his. And, I mean, next thing you know, I'm every time we go in the woods, we got one strapped around her neck, and I wish so bad that I'd had one in the earlier years before I met him. But, I had like a old night vision, but thermal was like a whole other world.
Yeah.
Well, it is. And there's thermals, and then there's thermals. And Tom, you sent us a couple of images from the most recent thermal y'all purchased, and I would love for Steph to show, because this is unbelievable what these thermals can do.
Yeah, the clarity of the original ones, when you're actually looking through the viewfinder, is pretty good, but when you actually record, it's like 180 by 120 pixels. And this Pulsar is incredible, because what you see is what you record, and the clarity is phenomenal. And our goal, of course, is to get Sasquatch walking up straight and looking in the camera, but
sure,
that's not so easy.
So let's show that owl thermal that they took, Steph. Look at this. I mean, owl sitting there looking at them on that tree branch.
Yeah, this was in the Chilhowie.
Yeah, that's probably, I think that was about 50 yards away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you call that owl in?
Well, we had been doing owl calls up until then. Nothing was going on, so I just started scanning the trees, and there he was.
Do you notice how much heat there is around the eyes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The thermal sees heat. It doesn't see light. So if you shine a flashlight at a thermal, you can't see it, but you can see heat. And there's so much heat around the eyes of the owl. It's the brightest part of their body. And
it's huge. Yeah,
it gets closer. Just wait. This is still from a distance. He gets a really good close-up. But you can see anything in the dark, and you see the trees, how there's the white on the trees. That's the heat that's left over from the day on the trees. And some of the trees are more gray. That means they've lost their heat. The heat's dissipated.
Wow. Look at
beautiful.
that. That is beautiful.
Yeah, it's a barred owl.
Yeah, the clarity is so phenomenal. You can actually see the feathers.
Well, and it's not just there's a bird, but you can tell which species of owl that is.
Mm-hmm.
So phenomenal.
Wait till you see the screech owl at the end. I think that's this video. He was like right maybe 10 feet away. I mean, we didn't even know he was there. I just saw him on the side of the trail.
Yeah, if you look carefully where the owl is standing, once it leaves, you'll see it fly away. You'll see the heat left over from the feet on the branch.
That's amazing.
So this is zoomed in a little bit, I take it.
A little bit. Well,
from the actual.
Yeah, this one has the 50 millimeter lens on it, so it's already kind of zoomed in.
Do you have the zoom capability with this?
Oh,
yeah, look at that. You can still see
that.
the heat on the branch. That's crazy.
That's so cool.
Okay, there he is.
Yeah.
But we have, the owls literally land above our heads when Greg does his calls. It's so real. We have them respond from way back in the woods. Once in a while, we hear something. We're like, Greg, is that a real owl?
How many different kinds of owls can you mimic, Greg?
I've got a barred owl call that I use. It's really a turkey call, is what it is. It does barred owl, but the screech owl, I do that too, and they come in, and it's not always an owl.
Yeah, for sure.
The reason I started doing that was when I first started my research, I would I would announce myself when I come in the woods, and I wanted to do the same thing over and over, and I would do the owl call, just kind of let them know it was me. Now I kind of realize that they know it's you before you even get out of the car. But yeah, I still do it, and they'll answer back. Sometimes I've had them answer back, and we'll just have like a hooting contest. It's just it's been
for sure
something we do.
Or it's Sasquatch over there hooting, and you hooting, and they hooting, and they're like,
yeah. Well, I had one time. I was doing my owl call, and I was in my gifting area, and I'd been putting out apples or something like that on a tree, and I just started doing the owl call, the barred owl, and probably about maybe 30 yards away, there's really heavy, thick rhododendron. It's just like a Vietnam jungle out in the the national park here. But back over there, probably 30, 40 yards away, it's just like this 1,000-pound barred owl, just like I was like, and it was ground, and it was, you could tell it was back in the bushes, and I was just like, okay, hey there, thanks.
Oh, that's interesting. And then you had a thermal of a coyote, I think, or
coyotes. These were taken to one of the state parks. Greg got with our thermal, and then he kind of put a little. He kind of linked a bunch together. The camera's a little bit higher, but you can see the coyote approaching, and as it gets closer, you can see the clarity is incredible.
Wow.
That was right behind our campsite.
Yeah,
you just don't get this much detail even of trees on my thermal, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll set up cameras at night. Anytime we go out, we have static thermals we'll set up in different areas, looking at different areas that we think, now, where would I come if I were a Squatch? And we're sleeping, and this is what's happening while we sleep. They'll just come right in and look at us, and then the next day you realize, wow, we had coyotes.
Wow.
He's staring at us. Yeah, this is one of, I have a lot of thermal from other times we've been at this park and others where the coyotes will come in and they'll come right to your campsite.
It's like a night vision. It's not even like a thermal. It's like a night vision camera.
Amazing.
Look at that. Wow. So if there was a Sasquatch there, you would see it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great detail.
And this is right in the back of our campsite, all the same night.
Yeah.
Watch this.
Coyote just comes bouncing through like he's on a trampoline.
That's
hilarious. Hilarious.
Isn't that great?
That is.
What in the world is it doing?
What's
I was told he was probably going after a
That's
mouse
so
or
great.
a rabbit or something. But
I think he knew the thermal was there and he was doing a show for us.
That's so great.
We're sawing logs.
What's the battery life on the Pulsar?
We got two different batteries. The battery that came with it, I think, what's it last time?
I think it's 4 hours.
4 hours. And then we bought an extra battery, which is twice as big, and it lasts about 8 hours.
So you can leave it on all night, pointing anywhere.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. We just turn it on whenever we go to sleep, which is usually like 1 or 2 in the morning. I mean, that ain't but just a few hours till daylight. So
yeah.
I mean, what's y'all's theory about thermal versus video in terms of Sasquatch perception of the equipment?
Like them realizing it's there.
Yeah.
I think they know it's there. I mean, they avoid game cams like the plague.
Do you think they would avoid a therm as well?
Well, I think they're intelligent enough to know that it's not something normal that's sitting in their environment. I mean, whether they know it's a camera or not, I don't really know. But
we've gotten some footage where we'll cover it. A thermal can see through a garbage bag, but you can't see through the garbage bag. So there's the early years, I'd stick a thermal through the top of my camper and put a garbage bag over it, and you couldn't see it. And everybody thought, what is that? Like an air conditioner on top, but you could see through the garbage bag.
Interesting.
So we have some interesting stuff where they'll come kind of close to the campsite. But I think if they see a lens, or if you're up, called glassing, if you're doing this, that's a lot different than the thermals behind you and it's static, and we've kind of switched to that. Rather than sitting around in the camp doing this, we'll set static cameras. We do our business and act like campers and have fun. Meanwhile, we're recording.
Sybilla used to do that in Crittenden, didn't you? You would try kind of to hide your thermal a little bit.
Yes, I would put it in like a little ammo box that had a hole cut out, and the lens was there, but I would just move it around different places, and it had a battery, and it would run all night long. And then, I'd go pick it up the next morning. That was, Tom came up with that whole idea, and Tom and Greg, created that for me. They were the tech people, obviously.
That was the old Pathfinder.
Yeah.
It was.
We still use it. We still got it and use it.
Y'all still use it?
Yeah, it's really clear. It's better than a lot of.
You're finding cars, and so you drill a hole. Greg did all the creation of the boxes and put a hole there, and so all you have is this little opening. You can put the box anywhere you want, point it anywhere you want. It can run, and we have other thermals that are smaller, like little FLIRs, and they run on little, USB ports and portable batteries, and they'll just run as long as you want. But
I got it right here if you want to look at it.
Sure.
Yeah, show us what it looks like. Yeah.
Give me a second.
Yeah, Greg's kind of our tech guy. He can do about anything that needs to be done.
Including making messes and everything.
Make messes.
He's also an incredible cook.
Oh yeah.
No, but I know that our chat room crowd are interested in equipment that works.
That's basically the Pathfinder right there. It's 12 volt. It doesn't run on batteries. It runs on 12 volt because it comes out of a car.
And that's the lens sticking out through that hole?
Yes, that's the lens. That's the plugged into like a cigarette lighter adapter, which Tom has several 12 volt plugs on the outside of his camper. But
so that one usually stays close to the camper because you have to plug it in. But the other ones are portable. You put them off on a tree stump. Sometimes we'll take it with us when we're hiking, and halfway down the trail, we'll set it on a rock and then pick it up on the way back and point it like towards us or back down where we came from.
Yeah. Crittenden, to answer that question, which Crittenden are you talking about, Sybilla?
That's in Kentucky. Crittenden, Kentucky. Not in Crittenden County, because there is a Crittenden County in Kentucky also, but it's in Crittenden. I mean, it's out in the country. It's not in downtown Crittenden. Obviously, it was way out in the country.
They're Hillbilly Sasquatch too, in Crittenden.
That was a great place. I was wondering, if there was any stories, Tom, out of Crittenden that you wanted to share.
Well,
and explain a little bit about how that came to be, because a lot of people wouldn't know what we're talking about.
Okay, so Adrian Erickson bought the original property where there was a lady who would feed Sasquatch for decades, and you interviewed Adrian about a year ago, and he talked about it. And so he had that site. Dennis Fowl was like the lead investigator at that site, would travel back and forth, and several people traveled back and forth to Crittenden. And the Sasquatch were very active. They got some really phenomenal thermal, video, night vision, pictures. And then, of course, he talked about in 2008, we had the crash in the market, the housing market, and that kind of affected him. So they kind of stopped the project. The house sat dormant. The original house sat dormant for about 2 years. And then we found out, because our group, Dennis Fowl and Shannon and Sybilla and Ronnie Powell, myself and Gray, we're all looking for property. Where can we do something? And I've been looking for over a year, all over Tennessee, everywhere, trying to find property. And then all of a sudden I get a call from Dennis. And it's like, the property's for sale. So literally the next day I called the realtor and we bought the property. So that started a 5-year project that we had Sybilla there as the lead investigator. And then Greg and I would bring, we would come out and bring thermals and bring audio, and she'd be doing stuff all night and spend hours reviewing audio and thermal. And I mean, just phenomenal stuff. Just now that we're talking about it, brings back so many memories. One of them is she had a recorder audio down by the berm. There was a berm. It was like an 1.5 acre property, and it'd go down to a berm. And that's where, if you ever seen the pancake video, the little Sasquatch comes up and sits and eats the pancakes. Well, that's the berm. There's an oak tree to the left that there's, we hung a basket you could put pancakes in there and feed. So she put an audio recorder down there. And I remember something walking up, making noise, and then laying down and started snoring. You remember that, Sybilla?
I do. At five something in the morning, and it
It's
happened
like started snoring. So something laid down there and started snoring on the berm. And then another time we had been feeding with pancakes, and we were on our way down. And right in the middle of the path was a little leaf. And in the middle of the leaf, perfectly in the middle of the path, was a dead shrew. Was not torn up, no blood, just laying there, almost like, hey, this is a gift to you guys. And there's a lot of gifting. Sybilla can tell you about all the stuff they brought and put on the porch.
Yeah.
So we were saying, well, thank you for that. Walk down and, the pancakes are gone, licked clean. So, that's part of the gifting process. But that rings out in my mind.
Yeah.
Because a dead shrew you could find anywhere, but a dead shrew on a leaf,
yeah,
that's very different.
Right in the middle of the path, like exactly the middle. Like if you miss it, you're done. You'd step on it. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of the first nights we were there with Dennis and Shannon, we were all sitting in the back with a campfire and just talking in low tones. And Dennis looks over to the neighbor's property, and there's a Sasquatch just right there, like just checking us out. Because nobody had lived there for a couple of years, so I think they were just like curious as to who are these people. Of course, we'd done a bunch of cleaning up as well, but that was
a project. Yeah,
always cool. And then Ronnie Powell had a daytime sighting. You were there. That time too. She got ill, and so she was outside because I was cooking dinner, and the smell of the food cooking made it worse for her. So she went outside, and she was actually laying on the ground, kind of, and she had, she was vomiting. She was really sick, and all of a sudden she felt like eyes on her, and she looks over, and there's the Sasquatch has just turned and walking right back down the fence line. It was like a young juvenile. I mean, I guess it was coming to see if she was okay or whatever.
Kind of orange red.
It's the orange one, wasn't it?
Yeah. I checked on her because she was making loud noises out there because she was ill, and I think it came to check on her, and she looked over, and there it was, and just turned and walked back down.
There was a time I know. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, Steve Wolf made a comment. I wish I knew Sybilla back then. I made the same comment to Sybilla this afternoon. I said, I wish I'd known you and Dennis back then, because I would have loved to have gone to Crittenden when everyone was there doing the research, and because it was quite a lot happened at that property. A lot.
Yeah, it really did. And a lot happened around that property too.
Yeah. Sybilla used to park her camper out in the middle of that field. And the house I'm not going to lie, the house made me a little nervous sometimes. It seemed a little creepy sometimes. It was old, I just felt more comfortable. I'd go out in her camper and sleep, just had my own little area, and I went in there, and it's maybe 30, 40 yards to the edge, of clearing all the way around it. In the middle of a field, a little small field. And I get in it, and next thing I know, I'm hearing rocks, little pebbles hitting it. Just a little tink, tink. I was like, okay, guys, I know what you're doing.
Did they ever slap it?
No, but I did fall asleep, and I woke up, and I was rocking in the bed like this for taking the camper that same night.
That's
and I was like,
crazy.
Oh, I'm like trying to peek out the window to see if I see anything.
Right.
I didn't, but I was like, okay, that's not a windstorm, not here. But
and the neighbor, I think, one time was talking with you, Sybilla, remember? And she was facing towards the house. You were facing away, back by the old trailer. And she says, "Oh, there's one right there." And it was like peeking around the trailer.
she didn't hang around for very long. No, they just scared her to death.
Yeah. And they know they're there, but they don't like being out with them.
Well, imagine what you got on thermal back then if you had the thermal that you have now. Wow.
Yeah, you could be quite a ways away and get some good thermal. We actually had a thermal. There was a trailer there, and so we hid the thermal in a styrofoam cooler and cut a small hole. And we had a curtain. It was sitting on a shelf about 3 feet from the outside window. And the window was like 8 foot off the ground. And then we put a garbage bag cutout so you couldn't see through it in the curtain. And so we would record, and we had some really good recordings, just of animals and stuff. But one time we found that the whole box had been pushed over, was on its side, and there was a big stick sitting inside the camper. And to even reach up there, you'd have to be 8 foot tall.
Huh.
And every single little area of the thermal of the recording was gone exactly at that time. Otherwise it would have picked up something really good, but it was missing the data. That happens with the Squatch world. A lot of you know that out there.
Yeah.
Batteries go dead, things stop recording, you're missing data.
Yeah.
But you can see, I took another thermal, you can actually see there's a little heat. So I think it was attracted to the heat because I think they see heat. That's why they see so well in the dark.
Yeah, and it hadn't been up there but maybe a week before they knocked it. They knocked the entire shelf down, like the
Right.
thing was down. And it was a tobacco stick that they used.
So they knew something was up with that shelf.
Yeah, they did.
That they were knocking.
Well, and that was
over.
the same trailer that Matt Moneymaker had filmed the pancake footage out of that same camper.
He and Adrian.
Same old trailer. And when Matt was in there, something lifted up. Now this is a big trailer. How long was that trailer? 30?
Big.
At least 30 or 40 feet?
28 to 30 feet minimum. Yeah, it was big, heavy.
Yeah, and it was a trailer house. Yeah. Something lifted it up by the tongue and slammed it back down when he was in there. Not, I mean, he.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine that strength?
I mean, yeah, to pick up an entire, like it was a trailer home. It wasn't like a camper like we were in. It was a trailer home. Lifted it up by the tongue and slammed it back down, knocking everybody out of their chairs.
Incredible. I'm here.
Yeah. Now y'all sent some photos. Greg sent some photos and some audios. I don't know which you want to do first, Greg, but
well, you can do either one. I don't care. Do the photos, I guess.
Okay.
That's one of our favorite spots right there. In the deep in the Cherokee National Forest. I mean, probably 10 or 15 miles from the nearest main road, up on the backside of a mountain. We've had so much activity there. Tom, y'all know where it's at.
Is that Scream?
Yep.
Yeah.
So everybody's wondering why it's called Camp Scream.
That's Tom. He experienced that. That was him.
Yeah,
he named it.
I'll tell you real quick. So my son and I were looking for a spot, and I knew about this area. And so we were driving along the road, and we found this area that, like, wow, this looks kind of cool. And there's a little stream back there. So we camped that one night, and we were up making sounds and howls, and we were in the tent. And I did one more. I can't remember whether there's a howl or whoop. And within a few seconds, the most loud primeval scream, like a woman being murdered, came up the road. And my son and I look at each other and we're like, that was a Sasquatch. And then literally within a few seconds, the coyotes let loose.
Yeah.
They were on the road, right up the road, about 50 yards. And that was almost more scary than the scream because there was a pack of coyotes right there. So we didn't go out and look, but so we named it Camp Scream.
So would you camp on the road, or are you off to the side of the road there?
Well, you can tent camp down lower off the road, but here this is right on the road, but we're pulled a little bit off. So there's still plenty of room for cars to go by.
Was it a road that cars used a lot?
What do you say, Greg? 2 or 3 cars per day?
We'd be there. Yeah, we'd be there all weekend and maybe see 2 or 3 cars all weekend.
It's very isolated, rough roads.
And it's just people doing the loop. I mean,
I'm sure people were thinking, why are these people camped right here on the side of the road? What a strange place.
Yeah.
Well,
This is also the location where, and I uploaded a photo of it too, where Tom and I, it's probably the only time that Tom has ever seen me like terrified. Whenever we heard that voice, this is also
the audio. Yes.
Yeah.
You guys were sitting up there by your camper, I think, and the voice came from what, like around back behind mine?
Behind my truck, yeah. And I
Behind your
uploaded
truck,
a photo. Yeah, I uploaded a photo of that.
Yeah.
Who can recognize Sybilla in this photo?
Tom wearing his famous blue shirt.
Yeah, it's really kind of
Famous
fun.
blue
I wear
shirt.
blue a lot, and Greg would always say, "Oh, I know Tommy from his blue shirt."
That was at Elkmont in the national park, Smokey Mountain National Park.
Yeah.
That was I think that's the first time I met Sybilla and Ronnie both. And that's my mom. She's to the far right, Judy Craddock. And
She's in the chat room.
Yeah,
Who's
she's
next?
okay.
So, yeah,
She's
she came to
also
support
watching.
us.
Oh, that's great. Who's next to you, Sybilla? In
That's
the
Ronnie
picture?
Powell.
That's Ronnie. Okay.
That's Ronnie. She was also a team member.
Okay.
Phenomenal investigator.
Absolutely. Are
That was
these
a good trip. That's the one we were yelled at, Tom, at the cemetery.
One of the many we were yelled at.
And I
Yeah, one
think
of
you
the
got a picture of that cemetery next, maybe?
Yes. That's the cemetery we were yelled at.
Or? Okay.
It's at the far end of that
Oh,
campground.
yes.
Yeah. We were just up there this last weekend. And but yeah, we had been up there in the middle of the night, 2 a.m. or something like that, but it was nobody back there. And
Yeah, nobody.
no, but the whole back end of the campground was closed. They closed that back half of the campground during that time of year. And
Huh.
we had been standing up there talking and stuff, and we turned around to walk away, and it just sounded like this big caveman yelled at us from the far side of that.
Like, "Hey!" And
I was like, "Did you hear that?" Yeah.
no flashlights. We don't know what it was, but it's something yelled at us.
Yeah. Not a lot out in the woods, it sounded like that. Okay, that's behind our cabin. We lived in a cabin at the other end of the national park there, Smokies National Park. I mean, you could see the park the mountains of the park from our house, but we had a lot of activity at that cabin from day one. And we lived there about 3 years. And that particular picture, I had left a bag of garbage in the back of my truck. And we went somewhere. We came back later that evening, but it had been picked up and dumped out. It wasn't torn to pieces. It was dumped out in this neat little pile, except for a couple pieces there. I didn't even notice this until I was looking at the pictures when I was trying to find some pictures to send you. But there's an orb there to the far left coming out of the woods. And the next picture, the orb is moved over by the garbage, and it's you can zoom into it, and it's kind of fuzzy looking, but I don't take it for what you want, but it's not a lens flare or nothing because it's in a totally different spot of the frame of the camera. So,
Well, that's interesting that you see it first coming out of the bushes on the left,
Mm-hmm.
and then you see it right in the middle right there in the middle. There's no mistaking that.
They used to slap the back of that cabin right there, and it would shake the windows and the pictures on the walls. It would just hit it so hard. And we had them around there all the time. And I guess from day one, I got so many stories there. I'd be here all night telling it.
That's a whole nother podcast, your experiences at the cabin.
Yeah, that's before I met Tom and Sybilla, actually. So I learned so much about things living there.
Well, and bears, if this had been a bears never grab a bag, pull it over somewhere else, and gently dump everything. Bears just rip it apart and just scatter it for yards. They make a huge mess. This is a mess, but it's not a huge mess.
Well, I can't guarantee that it's a Squatch did it.
Sure.
It was awful suspicious. And, we had activity there all the time, so I knew the Squatches were there. But it was picked up out of the back of my truck and took over there. It wasn't torn apart in the truck and drug over there. So,
how often did y'all see orbs like this?
That's really the only one I've got that was on camera that I didn't even see it when I took the picture. But we would see eye glow and little balls of light in the woods and around the house pretty regular. I'd say they'd come around the house. We would have some sort of activity probably 2 to 3 times a week. They would come around. I don't think they lived there, but they would pass through. And they would hang out for a little while, come visit. We would have them pace back and forth in front of the cabin in the dark tree line for as long as you'd stay out on the porch, they'd sit out there and just kind of pace back and forth. You could tell it was 2 legs. Walking through the woods.
And you would toss apples to them, and they'd come. You hear the footsteps coming out to pick up the apple.
Yeah, it was so dark out there. I shot out the street light that was by the cabin because I wanted them to feel welcome, you know, to come around the house. I didn't want lights. I wanted them at the cabin. You know, I wanted the activity. They would come stand, I guess, maybe 30 feet from the front porch in the darkness, and I would say, if you'll come a little bit closer, I'll throw this apple to you. Instantly, steps would walk right up to the edge of the darkness and stop. Just toss an apple to them, and I guess they'd pick it up, but you'd hear them walk off down the hill, you know, and they got their apple.
It was a mutual admiration society. You were admiring them, and they were admiring you at the same time.
It was totally no aggression. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
They were more mischievous and just kind of just hanging around. We had a lot of fun there, but it was quite an experience living there. I wish Tom and Sybilla, I wish I'd known them while this was going on.
Yeah.
That's the hood of my truck. They would draw things on the top of my hood.
What is that, scratched in, or what is that?
And it came off. I thought it was. I don't really know what they used. It almost looked like chalk, but it's a circle they drew on the hood of my truck, and I don't know what they were doing or trying to tell me, but maybe just let me know they were there. I don't know, but I came out one morning and there it was. But it came off. I scrubbed it off eventually.
Yeah, when I saw that, I looked at that and I thought, wow, it looks like they keyed your truck. But
and I thought they did at first, but
wow.
Huh.
And you got this cabin is in the middle of nowhere. We were on 5 acres, and my other 2 neighbors had about 5 to 10 acres, and we were on the side of a mountain and had, you know, in that area, you know, you don't get people sneaking around your property.
Right.
So you will get shot. I mean, that's just
right.
You are the police out there pretty much. But I mean, that wasn't some teenager sneaking around our house doing stuff like that. So.
Very cool.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's they would take my bird feeders, and I would hang them up around the property and put the little suet blocks in those.
Mm-hmm.
And they wouldn't just take the suet; they'd take the entire feeder. And one day I was like, I just walked out in the backyard and said, "Look, guys," I just said it out loud. I said, "Look, I don't mind you getting the bird seed, but quit taking my feeders. I need my feeders so I can put more bird seed in it, you know." And about 5 days later, I was out cutting the grass, and I looked down the hill, and those 2 bird feeders were sitting at the edge of the yard. They'd been brought back. And
so in the middle of on the counter that's what the bird feeder looks like?
Yeah, it's like a little cage you hang up on the tree, and it's got a little block of solid block of bird seed.
So they heard you and they brought it back. They're kind of like, sorry.
Yeah, you know, I was like, I'll put more in it if you'll bring it back, but. Now, the light, that was kind of scary and spooky at the same time. We had one light just like that on the front of the house out by the sidewalk. And my wife and I were standing out there beside it one afternoon, and we were just talking, and I told her, I need to get one more of these put on the back deck. Well, it wasn't very much longer. I found that one sitting at the edge of my yard. Somebody, you know, where they had swiped it out of somebody's yard and brought me one. And it's identical to the one I had in the front of the house. And somebody heard me and brought me a light.
That's so cool.
You know, that is, boy, that shows such intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, they understand what you're saying.
Did you have any motion lights outside your cabin?
No, I didn't want those. I've always kind of felt like I didn't want any lights. I wanted pitch black.
Sure.
I mean, even if I went out there with a flashlight, I made sure I didn't shine it into the woods. I just try to be as respectful as possible.
Well, I read an account about a family that had motion lights around their house, rural home. They went away on vacation and they came back and they noticed these sticks, long sticks in their yard, and they couldn't figure out why the sticks were there. And then they realized the Sasquatch had placed the sticks so they would know just how close they could come without turning on the light.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And if they stayed outside the sticks, they could go all night and you'd never see them. And so I'm thinking, man, that is so smart to do that.
Yeah.
Because they understood that, you know, they turn on a light, you're going to see them. They can stay just outside that range and they can see you They have all the advantage.
Yeah, they know where the darkness stops and the light starts. I mean, they would stay just inside enough of that darkness and wouldn't come out. And I had my biggest experience there in that backyard too. I guess the closest encounter I had with them up until just a little while back, but I had been out in the backyard. It was 4th of July, and my wife and I had been out there having a campfire, and I'd shot a few Roman candles up, you know, and
Sure.
it was getting really late, about 11 or 12, and she went in the house to let the dogs out on the other side of the house, out front in the driveway, and so I just hung out there by the campfire, and she'd been gone a couple of minutes or so, and I just started getting creeped. I mean, I was feeling the hair standing up on my arms and everything. I was like, okay, this ain't normal, you know. So I walked back up to the house and just kind of stood on the back little square deck we got standing there and just watched the campfire from across the yard till she come back. And I was staring across the yard, and all of a sudden, well, the way the yard was, you had the cabin. We were on the side of a hill, so the back of the cabin went up a hill, and the front of the cabin went down a hill. And I'm looking straight where it's flat. And I see this light out of the corner of my eye, so I turned and looked up the hill, and there's these two big blue eyes about the size of, bigger than eggs. I mean, maybe lemons, I guess. And they're just staring right at me, and they're glowing. It's kind of an electrical blue color.
You don't hear about the blue very often.
This was like a plasma blue. That's the only way I can describe it. And it just looked like it was alive, almost like it had fluid inside of it or something. But you could see the little black pupil in the middle of each eye. He'd stare at me, and he'd look to the left and then back to the right, and then back at me, and to the left, right, and back at me, and just went on for a few seconds doing that. And then he just kind of, I spoke to him. I said, "Hey there, how you doing?" You know, I mean, didn't know what else to do but talk to him. And he moved over to the left behind some pine trees, saplings, and you could still see him glowing through the pine needles. And you clearly see he was still there. And so I said, "Well, I'm glad you came, you know, and everything." And he floated back, the eyes kind of floated back over out in the open and started staring. The whole time he's looking left and right and just so cautious. You just tell the cautiousness he was showing was crazy. But while I was staring at him, something jumped up behind me. It sounded like the size of a horse.
Oh man! And
it had to be 5 feet away from me. It jumped up, and I spun around, just kind of freaking it, like caught me so off guard. And I didn't see anything, but it jumped up and tore off down the hill, and you could hear it just snapping when it was pop, 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 snap, and just boom, 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 just tearing off down through the woods. And I about fall over the threshold of the porch, going back and about kill myself, hanging on and freaking out. And finally grabbed and stood back up, and I look up the hill, and the eyes are gone. One down here is gone. Everything's quiet again. My wife comes outside. I'm like, "Don't come out here." She's like, "What happened?" "I'll tell you in a little while. Just don't come out here."
Just stay inside.
Yes, but it's just the distraction technique. He was getting my attention while the other one, I guess, had snuck up and was watching us, and I got too close to him, I guess. And he was getting my attention while his buddy took off.
Did either of you ever, or even Sybilla for that matter, did y'all ever feel an aggressive behavior towards you from them? I mean, I know we get scared when they yell and that kind of stuff. I don't know that they mean for us to be scared in those times necessarily, but did you ever have any overt aggression?
There were some times where I felt like I shouldn't be where I was. Most of the time I could walk around the property and feel completely relaxed, but there were definitely some times, like one time I stepped out late at night to put a bag of trash in the dumpster that was right by the back door, and I had the reaction that Greg did, like every hair on your body stands up, and you're just, you need to get back in the house. Like right now. And I dumped it, ran back in the house and
Interesting.
slammed the door and locked it and just stand there and shook because it felt like so wrong, like really scary. But I didn't hear anything. I didn't see anything or smell anything. It was just a sense that you got. But most of the time you didn't. But when you did get it,
Yeah.
it was so in your face. And it was that way down on the berm sometimes. Like most of the times I would go down there, take something to feed him. I'd feed him. And I could just hang out there for, I'd sometimes sit down and just hang out there. But then there were other times when I couldn't get back to the house fast enough. It's weird.
And how far was that berm from the back door of the
I think it was like
house?
250 feet, something like that, Tom. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was
Did y'all ever have an experience like that, Tom, down? Because we would, we would go out there at night sometimes and have a fire. And I remember you and Nathan one time going down below the berm and climbing up in some trees or something. Nathan remembers like it was yesterday.
Deer stand back there.
Yeah.
No aggressiveness other than making a lot of noise. That reminds me of a story when we were on top of the mountain, Greg. It was the 4th of July weekend. I don't know how I got off work, but we stopped at the fireworks store and we said, hey, we want something that just, makes light, but no noise. Okay, here, you want this. So we're, up there making, not much happens. We're making our usual calls, owl calls and stuff. And so we light this thing. I don't know what time it was, maybe midnight. And it shoots up lights, and then all of a sudden, bam, 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 bam. They all start blowing up in the trees. Branches were literally falling from the tree. Greg and I, of course, were horrified because we don't want to make any noise. We think it's disrespectful. And then all over, we're looking at each other. We're yelling in the woods, sorry, we're sorry. We didn't mean that.
Sorry.
That night, I think the whole clan of Bigfoot came out. We were in our campers and things were being thrown against my camper. And Greg was on the radio. We were talking back and forth. You could hear him running behind the campers. They were literally dragging logs behind the campers, but nothing aggressive. We felt
they're dragging, it sounded like trees being dragged through the woods across the road, and they'd run behind my camper past the windows.
So the fireworks prompted something.
It did, and there was so much activity. I'd radio Greg, like, do we need to go back out?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't aggression. It was just
it's just noise.
Sure.
Making a bunch of racket.
They were like, okay, they made racket, and now we're gonna come make racket back.
Yeah. But we don't usually do the fireworks loud noises like that.
Now it's just sparklers.
Yeah,
Sparklers.
That's true.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That was out in the front driveway, actually. I walked out one morning and found that, and it was
what are we looking at here?
It's a stick that was broken into several pieces and just spaced out perfectly. And when I took the pieces, and they all fit back together perfect.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, I didn't take a picture of that, but that's what I found. So that right there, just a line of sticks broken straight across, and I was like, "That's not natural."
That's not natural.
Yeah. Where was that, Greg?
At our cabin, right out in the driveway. Found it one morning when I was out walking around in the driveway.
That's cool.
That's just one of the many weird things we would find.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that you noticed that is pretty amazing too, because it'd be easy to walk right past that and not even pay attention.
I think I was actually out there spraying that grass with Roundup or something like that. I don't know what I was doing, but I was out there and I noticed it. But I would put rocks out and just little patterns and come back, and the rock was picked up and flipped over and put back down, upside down, right where you found it. And they, that's the cabin itself, actually.
Okay.
So, now that's an old metal skull dip can lid. And
I wondered about that when I was looking at it earlier. I couldn't figure out what that was.
Is it just me? I mean, aren't they all plastic now? I don't know, but
cardboard maybe, but
but that one I would weed eat around my yard, and I had this one spot way out about where that shed was in that picture, and I put a rock, like a river rock, over a spare key for the cabin in case we ever got locked out. And one day I was weed eating, and I come around to where that rock was, and I would always kind of check it and make sure, the key was still there and stuff like that. But I got to it, and the rock was gone, but the key was still laying there. And I was like,
Hmm.
who did that? And I looked, and there's a pile of wood, firewood next to it, and the rock was up on the side of stuck on top of the firewood. Somebody picked the rock up, stuck it over here, but left the key there. And of course, I'm looking around like, okay, who saw me put this key here? Somebody knows our key's here. So I just picked the key up and just left the rock where it was. But I think about a week later, I was weed eating again, and I come around, and about where the key was the week before, that was there. And
So intentionally placed there.
Yeah, it was exactly where the key normally was. Yeah, where I had picked up the key. I guess it was like I just took it as like it was a gift. Or just a sign that, we're here and we're watching you. We know you're here.
Well, I've heard of that multiple times where they watch where you habitually place things, and then they'll take that thing and they'll replace it with something else because they know you're going to notice where they put something.
Yeah. Well, I knew it wasn't somebody trying to get in my house because, they would have took the key. The key was still there.
Sure.
But they didn't take it. They just moved the rock and put it on top of the rock pile, the wood pile next to it. And I've never seen an old metal skull. I don't know where that thing's been for the past 20 or 30 years. But it's mine now. So
Sasquatch dips. I didn't know that.
Hey, who knows?
Yeah.
Oh, what's this one?
Okay, that was a gift they left me. That's the tree that I used to walk in my gifting area. I would leave fruit and gifts and things out, and I'd put a teddy bear right in that exact spot. Came back, I think the next weekend. I'd go out there every weekend. I came back the next weekend, the teddy bear was gone, and the mushroom was there. And
it's a mushroom. I couldn't tell what that was.
It's a mushroom. It was plucked out of the ground and laid on top of that log.
That's cool.
Hmm.
Yeah, you can't really see it, but that windmill down there on the far right, I would put those out, and that's the tree where I would put stuff out. It was right there next to a little small creek, and they took the windmill. They would take the windmills. You'd stick them on the ground, and I got colors. Yeah, my wife would go to and my mom, anytime they go to the dollar store, they come back with a bunch of windmills. Here you go. Got some stuff for Bigfoot.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's just an example of what I'd put out. A little small ball, just things with colors and just something to grab your attention. But that's the same tree. But they would get that and put it in different places.
This looks like a big spider on the ground.
Yeah, that's an asterisk structure. It's the first one I ever found, and that's how I chose that spot to put gifts out.
Asterisks. I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, it's about 4 foot across in diameter. And I had found a horse trail. And this was like when I first started going out to the woods and leaving gifts. And I found an old horse trail, and I went down it, and I came to a little creek that was crossing it, and I just thought I'd go off trail for a little ways and follow the creek. I guess I went down the creek 200 or 300 yards and found that right next to it. And there was that tree with that gifting tree that's laying on its side was right next to it. So I just started using that as a place to put my gifts out. But that was the first structure I'd ever found.
It's not a bad idea to let them show you where they would like you to do that.
That's what I figured. I just thought, hey, this is a spot they think is important, so I'll leave their gifts here. That's not too far from there. That's a little teepee type tripod looking structure I found next to it, and I would put apples up in the top of it where all the limbs intersect. Leave those. And
they would take them every time, or
something took them. Raccoon. I don't know, maybe, but
would they just be sitting on the log, the apples, or were you jamming them on something?
No, yeah, it was just sitting there basically. Because all the logs would cross together, it just made the perfect little place to hold an apple, and I just set it there on top. And
we never know for sure.
You don't.
Sure, what took stuff, but
right. And usually there's no scraps at the bottom.
No.
Like something ate part of it and they always leave little scraps, gone completely.
Yeah.
Same with peanut butter jars, they'll take the whole jar, gone.
If you leave candy bars, those little snack size candy bars and stuff, usually if there's paper all over the place, that's usually an animal. But if the whole thing's missing, I kind of assumed it was them.
Yeah. They like Hershey's milk chocolate bars.
Yes, they do.
Wonder if they get cavities from the candy we give them.
We're probably
their kids are probably bouncing off the walls and not using all that sugar,
like,
so.
for you, young man.
Yeah.
Now that one was, I was riding down the road, leaving the area, my little research area, and I was just kind of staring off in the woods as I was going down the road instead of staring at the road. But I just looked out in the woods. And that was probably a couple 100 yards off the road. And I just happened to see it. And so we stopped and I walked back in there, and you could actually stand under that part in the middle where they all cross together.
Really?
Oh, it's that high? Wow.
Yeah, it was big. And it looks like an asterisk when you get up close to it.
That's
just maybe
huge,
like a bigger version.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't look natural when you in person. I mean, maybe it was. I don't know, but I didn't see them build it.
That's cool.
Yeah. And would those structures be near the gifting site or just out in the woods somewhere?
All but that big one were fairly close to it. I didn't find a whole lot of structures. That's pretty much it over about a 5-year span there.
I mean, it's obvious that if it was Sasquatch, they know how to build those.
Yeah.
They just don't choose to do it a lot.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I didn't find a lot of structures there. That was about it, pretty much. Either that or I just didn't find them. But
cool beans.
That was an area that it was not far, about 15 minutes from our cabin, so I could zip over there pretty quick. But now it's about an hour and a half from where I live now. So we got another area over on this end of the park we go to now. So we're still about 30 minutes from the national park. So.
Were you a forester?
No.
Okay.
Just love being in the outdoors.
So
no, go ahead.
Oh no, finish your thought.
I was just saying I had my first experience in that area, so that's why I kept going back to it. I was in a tent with my dog. We went camping. I think it was Labor Day weekend. We had a little cold snap, so my wife was still living in Mississippi. We were right in the middle of relocating up here, and I was up here looking for a job, and I had the weekend to just kind of go out and took my dog with me, and we went to one of the campgrounds there in the park and woke up about 1 o'clock in the morning to what sounded like a siren going off out in the woods. It was so loud. It was the loudest whoop I've ever heard still to this day. It just was so long and loud. It just sounded like one of these somebody out in the woods with a siren of some sort. But I sat straight up in that tent and I was like, what in God's name was that? And just went home and started researching everything I could find, what made those kind of noises. And, like a lot of people do, they kind of come across the Bigfoot stuff, and that's what I heard.
And it's uncanny how often you'll have your recorder going all night, most of the night, and then right when it goes dead, they go, wow, and you're like, oh, why can't you do it when I'm recording? I mean, it's just uncanny.
Or you hear a really good sound, and it's like, Greg, do you have the recorder on? No, I think I was turned on.
Or right when you get there, like right when you get there.
Right when you get there,
yeah, that's true. Because we go out pretty much every month somewhere and together. And then he goes out even beyond that to some of these sites on his own many, times during the weekends. So he's got some areas that he goes frequently, and then we go sometime to those same areas, but others, we have our own areas too.
And when you guys go out, do you camp for a couple days, or what do you do?
The whole weekend usually.
All weekend, okay.
Yeah, Friday through Sunday usually. I'm off on weekends, and
I'm off
sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. Being in the medical field, I imagine your time isn't always your own, but
nope.
Well, you guys sent us some sounds too, which I found fascinating. So I'd love for us to play these, and you can explain them to us.
Sounds good. I don't know if you could hear that last one. He whistles like that again, but that's I've got like a long duration recorder that I leave out in the national park for like a month or so at a time.
Wow.
And, it kicks on every night, about depending on what time of year it is. Like as soon as it's dark, 6, 7 o'clock, the timer will kick on and record till the next morning. And get about 30 nights of audio or so or whatever, and I'll go out there and download it and bring it back, put new batteries in it, and just review
Well,
it.
it seemed like a ton of walking. I mean, what were they walking up and then walking around it? What do you think was going on?
That particular one, I had it at the top of a hill, and of course, you're just mentally picturing this. You're only hearing it, but
Sure.
it sounds bipedal to me, like it's coming from a distance, maybe up the hill or something, but it stops right there at the recorder and does that little whistle whoop thing. And it kind of hangs around a minute and then walks off, and he does it again. You really couldn't hear it. And I've had so many people listen to that. I've had wildlife biologists listen to it. I've had hunters listen to it over the years, and nobody can identify it. I mean, I'm not saying it's a squatch, but it's awful odd. It sounds like a whistle to me, and it sounds bipedal. So
yeah, that sounds like just like us making a whistle.
I've caught that several times, but that's the only time they actually walked like under the recorder and just whistled like that. Stop. It's like I can just picture him looking up at the recorder, whistling, and keep it on going.
Which is the interesting thing. They don't seem to care about audio recorders.
No, yeah, they never have. I've never had a problem with audio. They'll come around it and do all kinds of things.
Very cool.
But I've been monitoring that area. I haven't done it in a while, probably about a year now. I'd like to get back into doing it, but we've had a lot going on. But for a while there, it was just every weekend, or not every week, but once a month, I'd go out there and make the hike out there to get it, and take my laptop, my backpack, and download it, and put new batteries in it, and come back home and review it. I enjoy the audio so much. I mean, I'll just sit here at night and just listen to it, like, what's going on out in the woods at night.
Well, especially you think you didn't hear anything, and then you listen to the recording, you're like, when did that happen, man? I don't remember that. Yeah. But we do, even if we think we're awake, we're dozing off throughout the night and waking up, doze off, wake up, So this is a yell and a response. Okay.
Yeah, I'll say that was a rainy night back about probably a couple miles back from where I parked my truck, and it's several hundred yards off trail and up on the side of a hill, and you can hear some of the raindrops dripping off the trees, and I'm thinking it was probably around 1 to 2 in the morning when this happened, and I don't think there's anybody back there that time of night,
right?
On a rainy night. So it sounds like almost like a young male yelling, and then it sounds like a response a good ways off. So. I know how close he was to it, but it wasn't too far.
Just play that one more time, Stephanie.
You can hear
Like maybe they're trying to locate each other or something.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Which we would do. I mean, how many times have you been out in the woods with other people and you're like, woo, so they can know where you are and have them answer the same way. I mean, Sasquatch does it too. Oh, this is interesting. I love this one. Were you at, who was the female voice in this? Is it Sybilla?
Oh, that's my mom.
Oh, your mom. Okay.
I know which one you're talking about. Judy Craddock. She's in the chat. What you said.
Okay.
I can't see the chat, but anyway, it was cold that night, so we just sat in the car. She had a blanket. I had a blanket. When she comes up to visit from Mississippi, we're in Tennessee, so she likes to go squatching. So that's what we do, and I take her to my areas. And this spot, we backed all the way up to the edge of the woods, kind of like maybe 10, 15 feet from the tree line, and we were just talking. We weren't hearing anything, and I had the window kind of halfway rolled down so I could try to hear. And I started hearing some clicking sounds, and I was like, "You heard that?" She's like, "Yeah." I think I can't remember if she heard it or not, but I listened. I heard a few clicks, and then everything went quiet. I didn't realize I had caught this other on recording because I had set my recorder on the trunk lid of my car, closest to the woods, and we think they do a clicking sound, like a little silent communication type thing, sort of like the Aborigine people do, maybe in Australia, and sort of a special ops kind of communication they probably do when they're out in the woods, like a language or something. I don't know, but every time I've heard, there's been several times we've been right in the middle of some activity, something like that we knew for sure was Squatch activity, and we were hearing the clicks and pops at the same time. So I'm strongly thinking this is them behind my car while we were in there talking. We were unaware while that was going on, while this clicking was going on. I think they're doing that with their tongue or something.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, and I've had somebody say, "It's probably just frogs or something." I'm like, "This was it was like winter time. There's no frogs out there, and it was like right there in the woods. And that was the only time we heard it." So,
yeah, that was away from the water.
Yeah, we weren't anywhere near the water. That was in the woods, like the tree line right behind my car, like 10 feet away.
Those were pretty obvious clicks.
We've heard that before on the mountain. Remember, Greg? We have a audio of that. It's like they're walking around when we were gone. You could hear the footsteps and
yeah.
Sounded like some kind of a, chatter.
Yeah. I've heard it too. It's an interesting sound. If you guys have ever heard Bushmen talk, it does sound a little bit like the Bushmen.
Yeah. That was my first thought when we had the recording up on the mountain. It's like, that sounds like what I've heard. From
Right.
But
and I think you had one more. I forget what this. Oh, this is the one where you say something to them and they replied.
Oh yeah, I was walking to one of my gifting areas in the national park, and I had felt like somebody was following me the whole time I was on this trail, and I finally just stopped and just said, "Are you with me? Are you here? Can you let me know?" And I get this like a soft knock from about maybe 50 feet away, back behind some trees.
Let's hear this one.
Where are you? Where are you at? Are you with me? Are you here? Can you let me know? Can you talk to me?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just the one knock.
It was much louder than the recorder shows.
Oh, I'm sure.
But that was probably about 50 feet away or so, somewhere in there. I mean, it was, I could toss a ball over there to it.
So.
And that happens frequently, Greg, especially with you and Mama. I mean, you say, hey, are you there? Or let me know you're there. Something happens. A yell, a howl, a snap, a wood knock.
Yeah.
Over and over again. That's not uncommon. Just kind of like, well, we're leaving now. Whack.
Yeah, I'll be like, if you want to let us know you're here, you better let me know now. I'm fixing to go. Pow. You know,
yeah.
Well, why didn't you do that the whole time we were here? You know?
Exactly. No rhyme or reason for when they do make their noises and when they don't.
Is that all for the audio?
I think you only sent me 4, I believe.
Yeah, I don't think I sent you 2.
There was I wanted Tom to describe that night. Yeah, you could just barely hear that. That was some audio I captured in Crittenden. I'm gonna definitely get that boosted up so you can hear it better. But that night at Scream, Tom, whenever well, the first night we were there, you and I were there before the rest of the gang came, and we had that vocalization. I'm going to add that picture to the stage. Oh, this is just the 3 Musketeers here, guys.
There you go. 3 Squatcheteers, right?
That was the Colorado expedition.
Yeah, it was Colorado. That's my camper.
Okay.
That's Tom's camper, and then that's my truck parked at the back of it. And then, so the first night we were there, Tom and I were sitting the chairs right out in front of his awning. We were just sitting there in camp chairs, and just talking. And in fact, Tom was mostly talking. He was to my left. I think it'd been a rough week at work, and so that's kind of how Tom unwinds. Is he's talking about his week, and he's just going, and then right from the back end of my truck, this voice, and I would like to see if Tom can. I know I heard it better than he did because it hit my right ear, and he was on my left. But it was. It was the creepiest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you've heard backmasking, kind of like it was creepy, and she stops and she just almost, you can see she got pale, and I heard most of it, but I was in the middle of talking, and then it just creeped both of us out, but it was right behind the end of her bumper there.
Yeah,
and it was loud. We heard it loud. Of course, when you record, it never records what you hear as loud as what you hear. That's over and over if you're out in the Squatch world. And it was, I mean, we heard that, and she was creeped out for hours. And she doesn't get creeped, she's the tough Squatch lady.
Yeah.
But that was pretty creepy. I don't know what that was. It was not a bear.
I think my shoulders were up at my ears for like at least 30 minutes. And I was just like this. And the funny, and I said, I think I've said this before, but if what we heard had been coming towards us, I was incapable of moving. Like I was frozen. It's like the one time I've experienced literally just being frozen. Like if it had been coming for us, I'd have just been like a rabbit, like when the headlights hit it, I'd just been done. I think about 20 minutes later, Tom got up and he had those little bottles of wine, the little plastic ones. And he said, let's just
I think we need a drink.
So he opened up one of those little bottles and we drank. We sat there, and I think I could finally feel my shoulders coming down. And then we heard that voice again, but it was out in the forest, like in front of us this time instead of being on the side of us, and it wasn't as loud, but it was obviously the same voice. And then
That's
the next
interesting.
night is when, oh, and this is just an image of if you walk away from our camper and look down the road, that's what it looks like.
That's the road.
Yeah, it's just road. That's the road, and it's just nothing but forest, like on both sides, because this
Looks
road
like
is cut.
thick
It's
forest.
just cut right into the mountain, and it's real windy and twisty. Like it takes you, how long does it take just to get there? That road is so windy.
A long time. You're about 3 to 4 miles away from the next closest campground. So you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes probably 45 minutes.
And is this kind of a designated campground or?
No, this is that one that you saw, like when you saw his pictures, but that picture was taken in the winter, so you couldn't see, but this is what it looks like in the summertime. And it literally just had a little pull-off area, and that's my camper on the right, and Tom just backed it in there, and then he put his right next to it, and then you can see my truck. So this is kind of how we were situated. And then the next night, the rest of the team came up. Ronnie Powell came up, Ashlyn came up, and Greg came up. And so we had been sitting out there. Now, this other thing had happened the night before. Now, the second night, the girls, everybody kind of got sleepy and went inside my camper, and then I started falling asleep. So I went inside, and I wasn't inside 10 minutes, and Greg and Tom were sitting right in front of my camper in their chairs. And then Greg had kind of dozed off too. So Tom is actually the only one that saw this thing. I want him to describe.
Are you talking about the arc lights?
Yes.
So yeah, Greg and I were sitting there facing the way that my camper faces out. It's kind of a wooded field, and we often see all kinds of weird lights up there. And he had kind of dozed off, and I didn't realize it. And probably 100 yards away, all of a sudden, all the trees from underneath light up like someone was welding, like an arc light, just flashing and flashing. And I like, Greg, did you see that? And he goes, huh, what? But it lasted for probably 5 to 10 seconds, and it was bright, like someone was welding in the middle of the woods. I didn't know what to make of it. But after that,
and it was quiet, I assume.
Quiet night, little white lights started appearing all over in the forest. I'm not sure if they were, little orbs or what they were, but activity.
You said it looked like it was coming from the ground, didn't you?
From the ground up, not from in the trees, from below, like it was shining
lighting up the trees from the ground.
So it was brighter towards the ground, but it was way back in the woods. It would light up the woods, like multiple like that's lightning, arc welding.
Yeah, and then you had
I've never heard of that.
Middle of nowhere. I mean, there's so what is that?
Yeah,
we still don't know what it was.
I mean, bright like arc welding.
Right, like it lit up the woods like someone was there with an arc welder, just bright. But it wasn't orange; it was white light, just flashing up from the ground, lit the trees up. We've seen other colors too, where like a flash of green would light up a whole section of the woods and then disappear. Green. We've seen blue, just weird lights. I'm sure some of the listeners have.
Looks like camera flashes out in the woods.
Yeah, like a camera flash.
Wow. I've never seen that.
There was multiple, just on and on and on and on and on.
We were surrounded by green camera flashes that one night.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't as green, but it was in the national park. Yeah. We were walking along a creek, and all of a sudden we got like somebody with a camera paparazzi around us with but it was green. It was just a green.
Yeah, very weird. Yeah.
So weird.
I was looking for a sound, but I can't find it right now because I think it's on another computer. But way back when we first started doing this, we had a couple of guys come in who had been camping on the Colorado Trail the night before. And they were off the trail a little ways, and then they put a recorder about 30 yards. They were kind of on the edge of this ravine. They put a recorder about 30 yards away down the ravine from where they were in a little tree. And they didn't know this happened till they heard it later. They didn't hear this, but the recorder picked it up. So you can hear them talking softly. You can hear the fire crackling. And then you hear this big pop, which is the fire doing a big gas release. And you hear one guy say to the other, hey, can you pass me the Pop-Tarts? And then down by the recorder, as clear as day, you hear, and I thought, you listen to it and you're like, what is that? I mean, it sounds like someone imitating a demon laugh or something, but weirdest thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know how they didn't hear it, but it was just when whatever made that noise it was standing right next to their recorder. So it was clear as a bell. Creeped me out just listening to it. And I said to him, you're probably glad you didn't hear that night, because it would have just freaked you out.
Yeah, that'd have ruined your night.
It would have ruined your night. Exactly.
Yeah. There's a question Steve Wolf has. Have you ever had a large footprint left in your carpet at home, Tom or Greg?
Like someone else we know, huh?
No, not in my house.
No.
We would find them out under the tree and behind the house.
Uh-huh.
But not.
Well, the Crittenden house had a lot of activity in it. Tom can attest to that. There was something in the house.
Inside.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah, it's probably haunted.
Yeah.
Weird.
What do you call a haunting when it's a Sasquatch doing it?
Yeah.
A squanching?
What?
A squanching. Yeah, I was just trying to think of a good word. I'm like, no, I can't
Yeah,
think of a good word.
we don't think it was Squatch in the house. I think that was separate.
Okay.
No,
There was a lot
I think
of paranormal.
It was
stuff
something
happened
else.
at Screen.
there was paranormal stuff going on, but we kind of ignore that and just kind of go for the
Sure.
the Squatch activity.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of paranormal stuff, but they kind of do seem to go hand in hand.
Yeah.
You know, and then there was that footprint into that carpet, that little carpet square in the kitchen. Tom, I don't know if you even remember that. Nathan was there at the time.
I do remember that now you mention it again.
Yeah, that was weird.
A very clear impression in the carpet.
Yeah, and it was very clear that Nathan was freaked out about it.
Mom, they're coming in the house now.
You and Nathan were camping out in the backyard, remember?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he had thrown one of the logs on the fire, and it made a boom. And something like an elephant, remember, got up and started tearing through the woods away. And it freaked him out so bad that he would not sleep out there that night. He had to go in. It's just because it was right there, like within 15 feet, something was sitting right there watching you guys.
Yeah, something, and it's, and you know what the substrate there is. It's all that, it was all that dead and dried weeds and stuff.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
like
sure.
literally, there's no way that something could walk on that and get that close to us, but it did.
Mm-hmm.
And
Without you knowing it,
yeah, and it was heavy. And actually, what he had done, Tom, is he broke a stick. And the stick popped. It was a real dry stick, and it popped so loud it sounded a little bit like a gun going off. And that's what. And it ran right by the neighbor's dog pens, and the dog started screaming like,
oh wow,
like something was killing them. I literally thought something was killing her dogs when I first heard it, and then you heard the pounding of the legs that's running away, and Nathan's just dropping F-bombs for like 2 minutes straight. He was so freaked out. And then, he finally quieted down, and we're standing there, and then something ran to the bottom of my neighbor's yard, and then started doing the teeth popping like that. I can't even make it, but it was
like
super
chomping
loud.
or clacking their teeth. Or...
clacking their teeth, and it was so loud because we're talking 200 feet away, but you could hear it as if it was just right there. It was so loud, and that's when he turned to me and he goes, "I love you, Mom, but I'm not staying."
I love you.
You can have it. If you want.
I'll leave the squatching to you, Mom.
Yeah, you can stay down here if you want, but I am not effing staying down here. No, thank you. So and he turned around and walked right back into the house.
Are both of you guys married?
Yes.
What do your spouses think about all this?
She goes with me. She likes it. I mean, not all the time, but she'll ride with me out there and just sit in the car.
Mm-hmm.
She got her taste of it at the cabin. Her first, she'd go out and take the dogs out front, and there'd be a rock come out of the woods and land in the driveway next to her. So she see lights in the woods. So
yeah.
But She's a believer.
Yeah, because of me and all of my, all the stuff that would Greg and I get, the thermal and the video and the audio, she's a believer. And she had a unique experience too. We had some activity on an expedition, and she came with a girlfriend. She stayed to camp for a couple nights, and then she left during the day to have a picnic at this one site. And there's something there called Grumpy. They think that's probably a Squatch, Grumpy. So she gets out, making her peanut butter jelly sandwich, and she goes, "Hey, we're here, Grumpy." Within seconds, 3 loud wood knocks. Bam, bam, bam. And she was there by herself with the girlfriend. That like solidified in her mind that, yep,
interesting.
They're real. Something has to make that noise. Very loud.
I just asked because I know so many researchers whose spouses are just like, "You are nuts, man. None of this is true." And that's never been the case for me either. Daphne's a believer as well. So
she supports my going out every month.
Well, it'd be hard to keep going out all the time if your wife didn't believe it, because that's a lot of time we spend away from our families potentially. So
it's definitely busted up some marriages. There's no
you hear
about that.
There's been times when I was just going out there too much, and she has her ways of letting me know, and I'm like, I have to back off, and I'm like, okay, there's a balance there.
It is.
She supports me though 100%, but she wants her time. So
when you come home, your pillow and your blankets on the couch, is that how you
doghouse outside?
Yeah.
Doghouse.
I sleep with the dog.
With the dogs.
Was there anything else? I think we showed everything y'all sent us. I'm pretty sure here. Let me just look real quick. But any other things that y'all want to share? This has been great. I've loved watching some of the comments that people said that I think this is my favorite episode, which is appropriate for being the last one. But
we've got an area that Tom and I go pretty good bit now. We're having a lot of activity right now. We're working on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I've had a sighting there of a white one, and he's with me one night when we basically what we confirmed it to each other. We were walking down the road, and he didn't tell me he saw it, but he saw a red light in the woods, and I was looking in the same spot and didn't know I was looking at the same spot he was looking at, but I didn't see the red light, but I saw something walk from right to left and towards the road. I saw from like the shoulders up. And it was just basically a head and shoulders floated across in the moonlight and went back into the dark. And I said, "Man, I just saw something walk over there." And then Tom, I'll let you say what you saw.
Well, so I didn't want to say anything because I had seen just like this little mild red glow frequently back in the woods. And so we were walking down the road. I saw that about 8 foot off the ground. And I thought, well, I'm not going to say anything because we're walking that way, and maybe I'm not really seeing it. I'm always.
And this is at night, I assume.
At night.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Greg goes, "I just saw something walk across the road." And I'm thinking, oh, well, I just saw something there, like this red glow. So we kept walking. And then I saw it again on the right side of the road. And when he had told me he saw it walk across the road, I thought he meant right to left.
Huh.
Well, I was thinking, okay, this is on the right. He goes, "No, that's where I saw it walk, from left to right."
Wow.
He was over there where he saw the red light again.
Right off. And then it's the same thing, like 8 foot off the ground. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if it was eye glow, but it was very obvious. And then
it was a full moon night, and whatever it was, it came out just enough in the moonlight where I saw its head and shoulders, and it went back into the darkness as it was moving. But it was so smooth.
No thermal. We weren't doing much. We were trying not to thermal in some of our areas now. We don't want to push them away. So we're doing less thermaling, but areas that we go that are not our research areas, we'll actually use, thermal imaging and like expeditions and stuff.
Steph, put David's question back up there real quick. Have you guys ever gone out without electronics to see if you had more activity?
That's what we're doing now. And yes, much more activity.
Interesting.
And
how about firearms?
I don't care if Greg has one, but it's not on us. It's usually back at the camp.
Where I go, I usually don't get too far from the car. I mean, it's basically an area where they're there when you get there out of the car, they're there. And I just kind of hang. I usually don't get no further than 200 yards away from the car, but I do keep a firearm in my car. But it doesn't keep them from coming around, you know. But we, in this particular area, for a long time, I did use thermals and I did use electronics like recorders. And I still use audio, but and I got activity. I got knocks. I get, you know, some stuff on my audio, or they take apples and gifts, but that's about as far as I got. And I guess since for the past 8 months I've been doing this, I've just totally cut out all electronics except for my audio recorder. And I told them, I mean, I speak to the woods, you know, I treat them like they're people. I don't treat them like they're monkeys. And I just told them, I said, I'm sorry for using cameras all these years. I said, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to try to get your picture anymore. I said, if you can just, you know, forgive me for trying to be disrespectful all those years. You know, I just want to get to know you more and learn more about you. And man, it's just like next level. It's been like a game changer, you know, activity since then. I mean, it's been more interaction and more. They're there waiting on me a lot when I get there. I mean, it's like they're excited when I get there. They just start, you know, snapping stuff, walking through the woods. I mean, it's just they let you know they're there. And before, it's just quiet when you get there.
Yeah, they understand what you're saying. I mean, when you do this, they understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They understand what you're saying, and they understand the intent of your heart. So if people do carry firearms, when I am carrying one, I tell them, this is not for you. Please don't think this is for you. This is for bears or mountain lions, even though I'm almost convinced now that other large predators never come around when Sasquatch is around.
Right.
They're the apex, you know. So I really don't know that we have to worry about other large predators that Sasquatch is in the area.
Yeah. I'm more comfortable thinking there's a Sasquatch outside my camper than a person or a bear or something.
Yeah.
It's like, they're not going to hurt.
And I told them I have a firearm. I'm like, look, guys, I've got a gun, but it's not for you. It's for crazy people. It's for, you know, just protection for me and my family. It's not for you. I would never shoot you, you know. And so far, it hasn't made a difference having it. You know, I keep it in my backpack if I go out in the woods, or I keep it in the car if I'm near the car. So it's just. I think if you got one, let them know. If you got one,
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, they know if you got it, you know.
But like you said, they know your intent. They can see the way you walk, you know. The way you talk to them in the woods. If they know you know, then they know you know.
Yeah. My biggest advice is just talk to them.
Yeah.
Don't go out there thinking you're dealing with a dumb monkey or something.
No,
you know?
not at all.
People group.
Be respectful and treat them like a person, and you'll see a difference.
There was just another comment here I'll play before we close it up here.
We could go for hours and days. And
we all have so many stories. I can't find it now. It said something about where can we find you?
Yeah, they were wondering where did they, like, what's the name of the new podcast so they know how to find us?
We don't know yet.
But we do know it's going to be on your Sasquatch.
It's going to be on It's just Sasquatch Outpost. The name of the channel is Sasquatch Outpost, and I've got about 20 videos on there right now. I haven't posted very much. I'm going to start posting just other stuff to get people to start looking at the channel before we come on with our new show. What was Jill's? I can run faster than Jim. Well, I'm not gonna dispute that one. Your horses certainly can. But we're and people have been asking when are we going to have the Rabbit Hole Adventures trips up for booking soon. I've got to confirm a few dates with Jill and Shelly and Steve, but we'll get it up on the site soon. So, and Tom and Greg, that's the other question. Where can they find you if they would like to know more about you guys or what you're doing?
In the woods.
In the woods.
It's
So
awesome.
just go out in the woods in Tennessee and you're bound to find them.
Yeah.
Greg talk about some of your sites.
I don't really have a website or anything, but I mean, you gladly have my,
your Smokey Mountain audio. You have that. I thought you had that website.
There's some few old recordings on it, but if you want to get a hold of me, just email me. I'd be glad to give you all my emails. Just
we don't really have our own site. We don't really post it. We just are out there collecting research, and someday probably Greg will put it all together, one big long 30-hour video.
Hopefully we can retire soon and do this full time.
Yeah.
There you go.
Bill will come down, we'll all sit around and talk. And
yeah. We still have to buy that piece of property and put our campers on it and continue the research.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe one day. But,
to me, that's still a dream of mine, is that we get property in Eastern Tennessee, and we have our, have a cook shed there, and then have our pads where we can park our campers and just stay for extended, have it close to the national forest so that we can do our extended stays and just stay for months at a time.
Yeah, we're always kind of looking, aren't we, Greg?
Yeah, I always got our eyes
a
open.
place where they will come to know this is where you guys go.
Yes.
Yeah. And they'll come visit.
Yeah.
That's just always a dream of mine, is to get back to another habituation type.
Me too.
Like when we lived at the cabin.
Me too. Me too. That's my dream too.
Well, thank you, Patricia. And there was a comment from Catherine Four Feathers of, you're welcome. And we've enjoyed this community, and it's not like we're going away forever. Y'all will still be with us. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because this next summer in June, we have our chat room camp out here in Colorado. Wayne, can you say in the chat real quick how many people you have who signed up so far or showed an interest? Oh, Wayne went to the airport. I'm sorry. The last thing Wayne told me, it was, I think, 10 people had said that they were interested. So,
awesome.
But that's one place that we can all come together, as many as are willing and able to come in June, and we're going to get together in Colorado.
Maybe Tom and Greg, maybe you guys can come.
It'll be
adventure.
It'll be you bring your own gear and food, and we'll tell you where we're going, and you can just show up. So like a BFRO, but we're not charging anything this time. This is just for fun for everybody to be together. So
sounds good.
Some place where all the Squatches know your name.
Yeah.
I've heard a song about that before. Let me think. Well, you guys have been great. Thank you for being with us on this last episode of our podcast on this network. And this was great. Couldn't have been a better show to end it for me. You guys have been awesome.
Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And thanks for the idea, Sybilla, to have them on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They're my besties. And
Your
I miss them so much. I miss them all the time. I mean, we text and send each other
stuff. Like you're at a secret club,
Yeah, but I miss them all. I miss them so much, and all the fun we have. And I'm going to get back up there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Get back to Tennessee.
Better.
Yeah. That's the plan.
Well, it's fun to meet some more friends of Sybilla's. So any friend of Sybilla's is a friend of mine. So I appreciate meeting you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. And have a great rest of your evening.
You too.
Well, last show, Sybilla.
Yes.
It's a little sad in some ways.
Yeah, it is. Thank you, Tom and Greg, so much for coming on.
Yes,
it's so great to see them. It just makes me miss them more.
Yeah, I'll bet. Well, thank you again, Untold Radio Network. Thank you, Doug, Alex, Blaine, everyone else for a couple of great years. And we will stay in touch, I know. And I look forward to whenever I can see you guys again. And thank you, Sybilla, for being my co-host on this network all this time.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for all
bet.
the wonderful people in the chat. And we will be seeing you. We'll do some live shows.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, we'll and I will definitely be putting on Facebook and all the social media whenever we start doing our podcast. I'll be putting it up there. So y'all find us. We'll find you.
We will. And if Tom and Greg, you can stick around just for a second in the back room when we sign off here, we'll chat with you real quick. But thank you, everyone. We love you all. And you'll know it when we get ready for our next show.
Love you guys. Thanks for being here.
Yep. Have a great night.